when a founder is running really fast and things are growing, and if he or she, and a leader, right? Any organization, doesn't have to be a founder. At some point, like we were in our journey, the gut feel, flying off the seat of the pants could be considered leadership. I don't know. Intuition, battleship energy. How do you not arrest that in pursuit of organization and structure? Because as a founder, those two things are counterintuitive to me, but they need to be done. And I think we have found the balance, but that was the struggle.
Yeah,
I don't want to break the momentum or the energy or the serendipity in favor of structure.
That was a great question.
Thank you.
I would say, every car has a gas pedal and a brake pedal. And sometimes you got to go and sometimes you got to stop. And as long as you have two people who have those two inclinations and they have figured out a way to work well together, that's what in EOS, we call it the visionary integrator duo, but it's going way back to our earlier conversation about the founder who is just humble enough to realize that I'm the gas pedal and I need a brake pedal. The thing is, in a car, you'll break the car if you stomp on both of them at the same time. So can't do that. So we got to figure out when do we favor the one and when do we favor the other. And sometimes it changes, and it's going to shift and ebb and flow based on where the company is and how things are going. And it's just having the humility to recognize when the right time is for which pedal.
A great analogy. All right. Question. What is and this is Sarah Roser calling in from Rochester, New York. What's a common aha moment your clients have when they begin working with you, and how does it typically shift their leadership approach?
I should ask you about your aha moment as a client.
Well, I can point to two. Right. One was I was auditioning.
Yeah.
And I presented an issue to which I got immediate solutions. To me, it was like a major issue. It was. But that was the value of the group, where the answer they just were obvious and they worked. And it was helpful that 9 other CEOs that had been there, told me about it. So that was my first aha while, I entered your orbit. The second one was when we had our first EOS meeting, the planning meeting, right? The first one.
The 90-minute one,
the first
full day.
Yeah, the first full day, where the first thing you said was pick one. Are you a visionary? Are you an integrator? Can you make the trains run on time, or are you the big ideas guy? And I was like, both. I mean, this is so intertwined that how do you expect me to separate this, Kurt? And that was when I got it. It was an aha moment. Because I am naturally good at the visionary part, and I did the integrator part because
it had to be done.
It had to be done.
Yeah.
And
you'd been doing it for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
So what sparks joy is not approving invoices to me.
Signing off on payroll.
Right. What sparks joy is conversations like this that we have with our team all day.
Yeah.
And building for the 6 months and beyond. That's what sparks joy. So aha moments were those for me. Any other stories from clients?
I would say a recent aha moment is one of the things we talk about when companies are going through EOS is when they get the core focus of their company nailed down. And in a nutshell, it's just helping companies decide why they exist and what they're really good at, and actually just putting that in writing with as few words as possible.
Yeah.
That's usually where a lot of the folks I work with kind of turn the corner, and they're like, we have never had this before. And oh my gosh, this allows us to be able to say no to all of this ash and trash work that we're doing that really does not make us happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so just distilling that out and understanding what you're not, so that you can actually be what you are, can be very liberating for folks. So that's one of them, I would say.
Yeah, and it's hard, right? When you first start a business, you'll say yes to anything they'll pay
Mm-hmm.
within reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's important to have that humility and awareness to know that this isn't
filter
to know this
filter.
is going to be a whole other business, and not you said yes, but need to have a plan.
There's a crazy quote that it's escaping me right now that speaks to that, but
Yeah,
maybe it'll come
to you. Let's take a question.
Yeah.
How do you create a safe space for challenge and change without sacrificing accountability and results?
Create a safe place for challenge and change without sacrificing
accountability and results.
I don't know how those things are in opposition to each other.
Right. You need a safe.
Yeah. So
let me try to rephrase. I think the concept.
Maybe they can clarify for us.
Maybe they can. The concept of safe space has taken on a different meaning, right? In the last 4 or 5 years, maybe 10, where safe is considered anything that you don't want to hear. But that's not the approach. Like, you need to be able to say your piece. And to my earlier point, that's your task. Of course, you don't say things to intentionally hurt people, but people need to hear reality, truth, and actual advice, and that cannot be couched with too much niceness or a fear of what will the reaction be.
Yeah.
And I think if you take away that definition of safe space, what was that question? How do you challenge? Anyway, we should move on, unless you have other thoughts.
Well, I think one of the core jobs of any boss is to kind of be the monitor of psychological safety. I think that's why workplaces are considered toxic by people, is simply that it's not safe enough for them to be themselves, for them to say what's on their mind without feeling like there's going to be some retributions. It's a great little handbook called the Psychological Safety Handbook. That's kind of a really practical guide for managers to kind of just realize what their role is in creating that psychological safety. But you can't have that without there being trust, and you can't have trust without there being some vulnerability. So this is all coming back to kind of what are the agreements that we're going to put in place with our fellow humans on how we're going to interact with each other. And just setting those ground rules up front that says, look, we're not here to humiliate or shame people. But if we have some standards or some agreements that say that this is what our goals are, and this is the kind of work that we're expecting, and when you fall short, it has to be okay for us to talk about that. And for it to be taken on board in a spirit of continuous improvement, and because at that point it's not the other person judging, it's us self-judging that I'm bad, I'm less than, I'm not enough, and no one is saying anything about not being enough. We're just talking about, here's a result that missed the mark. What do we need to be doing differently to get it back up there? So
yeah,
I don't know. Hopefully that answers.
No, it did, because again, goes back to values to me. Values will bring in the people that are good about taking feedback,
and repel the ones who don't fit that.
Exactly. Right. Next one is, how do you create a shared vision that actually drives decisions, not just hangs on the wall?
Well, it's all about the leadership team needs to know how to bring it to life. EOS is one way to do that, as you know. But I'll tell you, one of the things that we learned from a Vistage speaker was a guy named David Friedman. If you have a vision and you have some values or whatever it is you want to bring to life, you just have to talk about them on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And point to behaviors in the organization that speak to whatever it is you're trying to do. So it's one thing to have a vision that's on the wall, but if you don't actually share it with everyone and make sure that they're all on the same page, and it's on leadership to really paint a vivid kind of a 4K resolution picture of here's where we're going and here's how we're going to get there. You just got to define it and talk about it until you feel like you're ready to throw up as a leader, because you're saying it so often. That's about the right cadence of when people need to hear it.
Yeah. So what we do here is every week a leader within the organization will send a video about a value.
Oh, nice.
And how to live it and how to not live it. How do you show it?
Yeah.
How does it show up? So that's been really good, because I was about to throw up because of how often I was doing it. And then so the leadership took it on, and every week someone does a value.
Nice.
That's pretty phenomenal. Kurt, you mentioned action trash. Someone's asking for an example. What is action trash?
It's just all the debris and detritus of what's on your plate that's getting in the way of the golden nuggets of stuff that you want to be working on. And it's distractions and stuff. That's action trash. It's just
action doesn't equal results.
That's not at all what I was mentioning.
No.
Action trash. Maybe that's a new one I need to take on.
Yeah, you should. Copyright.
That's action trash.
Action trash.